he's saying, no, that's not what's happening. Instead, astronomers are foolish. They've been overwhelmed by this notion of the Big Bang. The Big Bang never happened, but light is losing energy and getting more and more red as it travels to us in an infinite universe. That's infinitely old.
Is this person qualified to make this statement?
This person has marginal qualifications. They give away the tell and poker language of this guy's non-seriousness is that he wrote the same thing 30 years ago when the Hubble telescope was launched. So he's had the same thing, and he has a book. But the second thing that you tweeted relative to was not that the universe was infinitely old, that it was twice as old as we thought.
Yeah, it's like 26
exactly.
billion years old.
So so I did a podcast with Alison Kirkpatrick, and she and I went through this guy's claims. And then the next day, and we showed what he was saying is slightly different. He's saying the universe has a finite age, that a Big Bang-like event happened, but because of these properties of galaxies that I'll explain in just 1 minute, because of the properties of the galaxies, the universe has to be much, much older than astronomers claimed. He doesn't say you guys are fools and idiots, and he's a legitimate professor in Ottawa. His name's Rajesh Gupta. The day after, so we went through it, took it apart. I thought it was pretty convincing, and he even agreed that there are problems with it. And worse or better, he has integrity. Let me just say that. He told me that his media office was kind of responsible for eventually leading to the tweet that you produced, because what happens in academia...
They were trying to get attention.
Well, so I call this the academia media hype complex. So ordinarily you're working on something and let's say you discover, oh, there's this new material and it has a breaking point of 10,000 kilograms per millimeter or something. Like, okay, it's cool, it's interesting, it's important, it's incremental. No one's saying it's going to revolutionize spirituality, theology, and have our meanings restored. But it's important, okay? There's some object. But sometimes there'll be something that will be enough of a surprise that the professor, like me, will then go and say to their dean, hey, this is a cool result. I'm kind of sitting on it. I think it could be kind of big. Then the press office, we have a press office at UCSD. I've done this before. There's going to be some big news coming out about our result. It's very interesting. The university starts to promote it. Then a local newspaper, in my case, San Diego Union Tribune, in his case, the Ottawa Times or whatever, they'll start to, kind of promote it. And then if it's really provocative, it might make national news or in the physics news. And then if it's incredibly provocative, one of the world's foremost influencers might say something about it. And then Elon Musk might retweet and say that actually he thinks dark matter is even more sketchy than the age of the universe. So this in like the astronomer community just sent people into apoplexy. They were going, no, these guys should not be talking about, like I have friends, like Elon Musk shouldn't even talk about this because he launched a satellite in SpaceX whose main job is to detect dark. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like when lay people, and Elon's a technically minded person, he has a physics background as an undergraduate, but he's not a physicist, he's not a scientist working to discover new laws of nature and employ the scientific method. He's good at engineering and he's an incredible businessman and visionary person, but he's not. So he's kind of a proxy for a smart layman, right? In this sense, there's nothing wrong with that. But people then perceive this as like now these influencers are now overturning the work of literally thousands of astronomers and physicists working right now on legitimate scientific topics.
Let's get back to the actual claim itself.
Yeah.
So the claim itself, this is where we're getting away from this a little bit. So this claim of 26 billion years. Yeah. Does it make any sense? So it can make sense in the following context. Imagine you see a planet, and on that planet there are people, and they're playing around with like these electrified pieces of silicon. And you'd be like, wait a second, like that's really weird. Like that planet's only 4 billion years old. How is it possible that they're not only able to talk on electrified silicon, but they're also like having an internet and space flight? No. It takes longer. In my model of how civilizations form, it must have taken 8 billion years for that to happen. So therefore, it's impossible to reconcile with the Earth being 4.3 billion years old. Therefore, the Earth must be 8 billion years old. What he said, this guy Gupta said, there are properties of galaxies. They're rotating. They're appearing too early on in the universe's early history,
to have developed into the spiral characteristics and the population distribution of them is too numerous to have occurred in a universe that's only, quote unquote, 13 billion years. And you actually said that. You said, like, I always thought, 13 billion is a pretty big number. Now they're saying 27. So what's the difference? But there's a big difference, because implicit in that criticism is that there are flaws and imperfections in how we understand the Big Bang. Okay? When in reality, at best, he could be correct about the formation of galaxies. But you see, those are two separate things, right? The formation and the structure of a galaxy has no bearing on how old the universe is necessarily. It tells you something about your models of computer simulations, is what he's effectively criticizing, not criticizing the evidence that something like a Big Bang occurred at a very definite point in the universe's past, that we believe to about we have equivalent precision for me to say, I know how old you are exactly, but if you looked at a 50-year-old person, you could say, the day they were born plus or minus a week. Like, that's the precision with which modern astronomers know the age of the universe. And one guy is coming up with this idea that because there's certain galaxies within it that have formed this. Again, imagine if we found like a hyper advanced civilization that has warp drives and does this type 3 Dyson civilizations or whatever. They would not cast doubt on the evolution and the history of the universe itself. That would not cause me to question that. It would cause me to question my models of how people form and aliens form and stuff like that. But it wouldn't cause me to question the age of the universe. There's nothing related to it.